Yo, what up guys, it's Flark, and welcome to the Frost edition of the Beginner's Guide to PvP. You're gonna have to check out the first video, which I'll link in the description below, if you're a little confused on what this is, if you haven't seen it yet, because that's very integral to understanding this. But effectively, we're going to go over all the beginner information that's left out from my other guides or any other guides to help you really get in to Frost PvP in this game. It's going to be a good way to bridge the gap between PvE and PvP, or just for new folks entirely. But we're going to get right into it again with macros, because we talked about the general macros. Again, that video is going to be so important, so please go watch it. But for Frost specifically, we have another doozy of a macro, and this is the I win button. This button is really, really impactful. It has every single offensive cooldown macroed to, you guessed it, Abomination Limb. This button only works because each one of these cooldowns is off the global cooldown. Of course, this little effect that swirls around whenever you press a keybind. It's because all of these are off the global cooldown. You can press every single one of them at the same time and macro them right into A-Bomb Limb. And of course you want to, because there is no reason you're going to press A-Bomb Limb without using your offensive cooldowns. You're just wasting a huge go potential, which we're going to be talking about in the offensive setup section. This button, as shown here, will highlight every single offensive cooldown, get you set up, and get you in the swirling ball of death mode, so you can get in to doing your damage as quickly as possible. Now, it seems almost like a gimmick. It seems kind of Swifty one-shot macro-esque. In fact, entirely like that from the Battleground eras back in the golden days. But it's actually, the meta has developed to such a pacing, so fast. It's so important that you get so much damage out in such a short window that a macro like this is no longer just a gimmick. It's actually what I use at the highest MMR I can get to, 3,300, hopefully pushing for another DK rank 1 this season. Now the DK is a little better, so yes, a macro this insane is actually probably extremely useful for you right now. It saves a ton of button space, a ton of time, and gets you right into your damage, something that's crucial in a meta this fast. So the I win button right here on the screen. Of course, you can copy it point for point. Make sure you got the show tooltip Pillar of Frost if you didn't put that first. So every minute you can use just a Pillar of Frost go, and then alternate with the big A-Bomb Limb go, then Pillar, then A-Bomb Limb, then Pillar, then A-Bomb Limb, then Pillar, because that's how the cooldowns work out. Remember, this A-Bomb Limb is 2 minutes, Pillar is 1. So you'll use it on cooldown every time Pillar comes up, and every other Pillar of Frost, you're going to have that huge A-Bomb Limb pressure added to it. And there's the I win button for Frost. That's the only additional macro I would add to the basic DK ones. The other tool that you have as Frost CC oriented is blind, and of course you don't need a macro for that. And otherwise, you're pretty much set to just use your toolkit as it is. Frost rotation is pretty simple, and I don't think you need any macros for it at all. So the I win button encapsulates all that Frost is. Do a bunch of damage, cleave everybody, crank them, win the game, slash dance. So I win button, there you go. Feel free to use it if you want. But now we're going to get right into your offense, perfect segue, right into your offensive burst rotation and your setups, how to do the go. Pretty much no matter which way you can ask that question, it pretty much just means, how do I do the most damage? Who do I do it on? When do I do it? Where do I do it? How do I win the game? Let's talk about that. So, almost every situation right now, I'm using this PvP talent called Dead of Winter. So I want Remorseless Winter to be the first button I press, because I need that global already going, so the stun that I'm going to put them in ramps up. But it doesn't slow them for very much, Remorseless Winter. It's 20%. So even before that, I need to put a slow on them. Chains of Ice, 70%. So how does this look? I'm mounted up on one side of the arena. I'm running at the enemy team. I demount and change their players, get chains on both. I set up with Remorseless Winter, so that starts building up the stun, and I press the I win button. All right, so all of a sudden, you just have 3 buttons that maybe not the exact order you were doing it in, or maybe not the exact setup you were doing. So let's take a look at that again. We're walking at the enemy team. we Chains of Ice one target, Chains of Ice the other if it's double melee or caster melee. Just make sure they're not moving, not going wherever they want. Setting up that Remorseless Winter Global, so immediately you're getting that global down. That will do some damage, but more importantly, stun the enemy team. And then you're pressing your I win button. So everybody around you gets pulled into the Remorseless Winter Stun. They're already 70% slowed. They can't get out of it. They're getting yanked over and over by A-Bomb Limb. And the stun from Remorseless Winter is already stacking up because it was the first you pressed. Chains, Remorse, I win. But once you press that I win button, it's very important that you do the right burst rotation to get the most value out of those globals that you have during your cooldowns. And surprisingly, I actually do see this done wrong, generally when I'm doing RBGs with viewers, but it's definitely worth going over. Effectively, the burst rotation for Frost. That A-Bomb Limb that I just pressed, you had to notice something, right? There is a Rhyme Proc generated immediately. That's what A-Bomb Limb does. It immediately starts out with a Rhyme Proc. It gives you a ton of them, but it gives you one right when you press it. And that Rhyme Proc is going to be your Frost Fever application to everybody and your first generated killing machine. Remember, any good guide will tell you, make sure you have Frost Fever on all targets. Well, you don't need to make that one of your setup globals, because A-Bomb Limb will give you a free one right off the bat. And with that free one, not only is Rhyme making it do more damage, it's also now generating a killing machine because of your talent that every Frost DK should be using in PvP. Go check out my other guides if you need more information. Obliteration. You can see Frost Strike and Howling Blast always grant killing machines. So that first Rhyme Proc applies Frost Fever, does a good amount of damage, generates a killing machine, and that is how you're setting up your burst. So you're popping your A-Bomb Limb, using the first Rhyme Proc immediately, generating a killing machine which you will then spend immediately. So Howling Blast, then Obliterate, then another Howling Blast Rhyme Proc, then Obliterate, then Frost Strike, then Obliterate. Then what is the common denominator? What are you doing the whole time? You're alternating. You never obliterate twice in a row right now. You only obliterate when you have a killing machine proc, and you generate those killing machine procs by Howling Blast and Frost Strike. However, there's another way to generate a killing machine proc, and that's the Glacial Advance that you will be getting from your 4-set, which poor Flarkness has none of, so he can't be doing it right now. But every time, effectively, it's very simple. When you have a killing machine, you spend a killing machine. If you need a killing machine, you use a Rhyme Proc or a Frost Strike. And all of our damage is so front-loaded into Obliterate. Look what happens when you do that pretty well. You're running in. You got the chains down. You got the chains down. You got Remorse. Target acquired. I win button. Rhyme Proc. Obliterate. Frost Strike. Obliterate. Rhyme Proc. Obliterate. Frost Strike. At the end of it, Chill Streak can start bouncing. Obliterate. Rhyme Proc. Obliterate. My God. And you take a look at your damage done. You see, oh my Lord, you have so much Obliterate, so much A-Bomb Limb, so much Chill Streak. Because you got the alternating rotation down. You got every Obliterate with a killing machine. You never used it when you didn't have one. You fed the Rhyme Procs to do a ton of cleave damage and get that Frost Fever. And you put Chill Streak in, not at the very beginning, but in the middle when all of your Remorseless Winter stuns went off. So it could bounce a ton, do its full damage because you built up your Pillar of Frost with unbelievable damage. So, very, very, very important for you to do that exact order. And when you do, you're going to get a breakdown pretty similar to the one that I had. A ton of Obliterate damage, a ton of Chill Streak damage, and a ton of A-Bomb Limb damage, just because it does a ton of cleave damage by default. If your Obliterate is way lower, if it's way down the screen, or you're not critting with it, like you over the course of the game, you have like 10 crits and 70 non-crits, you're wasting this window. You know for a fact, you can look at details after the game, you're going, oh crap, I didn't get a good enough A-Bomb Limb window off. I did not get enough killing machine procs during my pillar. I did not utilize my pillar well enough. So that alternation and just making sure that they're all pulled in, they're all stacked, your Remorseless Winter Stun is down, is what's so important about Frost's Burst. Big takeaways: Remorseless Winter Stun is your friend. Press it first. Alternating globals and Chill Streak about halfway through, your Remorseless Winter Stun will then proc. They'll all be stuck with 70% slows on them. It'll bounce back and forth, unlimited damage. nuclear burst, and they're going to be 70% slowed, and they're going to be getting gripped in. You're going to love it. Outside of that, Frost is very limited. I know that's been a problem for most, but our burst is going to be so high this season, you're not going to matter at all. So instead, just during downtime, play defensive, chains. Something that you'll see me saying on stream a lot when I'm queuing threes is, okay, we win in 7 seconds. Just live, change, run, death strike. Just live. You guys run. You guys kite, right? Because if you're not doing that much damage in a window, instead of just AFKing and auto-attacking them and doing nothing, you can effectively just stall the game out. Chains, death strike, kite, peel, blinds, CC. Do anything you can to stop them from playing the game. So when Pillar of Frost comes back up, right, you can just press it and you can just go again. Now, even when you don't have the big limb go, you can Pillar of Frost on CD, of course, the minute cooldown, and just generally generate killing machines by Frost Strike, Obliterate, Rhyme Proc, Obliterate. Just like that, whenever you get a Rhyme Proc, it will still generate, even if A-Bomb Limb is not going. So the same thing, but without the power of A-Bomb Limb. Is it a weaker go? Of course. But you shouldn't wait 2 minutes for no reason when you can press Pillar of Frost on CD to get more pressure in during those windows. So you got a big 2-minute go and a smaller 1-minute go, and you alternate between those. Alternating is like a theme, a motif of Frost DK. And that's your offensive burst rotation. But it doesn't tell the whole story. I know you're saying that right now. 2 very, very important things. What about the actual setup? What about coordinating with my teammate? Who stuns? Do I stun? Do I stun every time? Who else do I want to get in there? Who am I supposed to grip? Who are we supposed to hit? Let's talk about that setup, using Gladius as a beautiful frame of reference. So you got the healer on Arena 3, and you've got your Death Grip Arena 3 macro that you made from the other video. Go check that out. You got chains on both, and you did your Remorseless go. Remember, Death Grip is on a small global, so it's very easy to fit in to your burst. So when you've got your Remorse out, and you A-Bomb Limb, you're pulling the 2 DPS in, and you're getting an AoE stun on both of them, and you're keeping them together. While that's going, so after you've changed, after you've Remorse, after you've A-Bomb Limb, you can then, in your go, grip blind the healer in. A new way to set this up because of the addition of Dead of Winter, but it works extremely well. Because now, the other 2 guys are already stunned. They're slowed. They're getting damaged. Now the priest is pulled in there. He's blinded. He's going to get stunned from Remorseless. Otherwise, he's going to have to dip out of there. But as he's moving, he's going to get pulled back in from A-Bomb. He's going to be slowed. He's going to be disrupted. So how that looks, right, is you would just effectively do the same go. Get your Remorseless down. A-Bomb Limb. You're setting up your burst. And right around here, just grip blind. Just grip the healer in and blind. And now he's going to, you see that little circle, that little day circle, that's the stun on these guys. He's going to get soaked into the nausea, the torrent of blender damage, right? You don't have to set it up before because of the way that Dead of Winter works. It's different from Absolute Zero. So that's a different way you can set up that burst rotation. The other way, super simple. If with double legendary, if you just want the Absolute Zero and stun instead, grip, blind, Absolute Zero. Or just grip, Absolute Zero, right? And how you want to set this up? So simple. Grip the healer to the DPS. That's what you want to do. So now you have a more complicated Omega Blender version of the go, or a very simple grip Absolute Zero. I don't really need to talk much about that setup because what you should be doing is just setting it up on cooldown. When there's a healer that you can pull in to a DPS and stun up 2 or 3 people, you'll want to do that. So I wanted to talk more about the Dead of Winter version because it's a little more focused on how you can get the most raw output while still doing a setup that disrupts their entire team. And that's pretty much what you're going to do, always. When you're trying to do the most damage as possible, I'm thinking back to every Frost DK game that I've played, and that's how my goes look. That's how we net kills, that's how we get pressure, that's how we disrupt the enemy team. When you're doing it with your teammate, you can substitute out Absolute Zero for XYZ stun, right? It is the exact same thing. Grip, blind, Chaos Nova, leg sweep, right? Other AoE stuns. You can just pull them in. Spear, grip, blind, drop Sakirian spear on the ground. you can apply this information. Now, I know it's a lot to take in, but you can watch this as many times as you need, and you can apply these goes, these setups, and these tools that you have now to any number of teammates that you will play with. But the main goal is you are trying to get people stacked on top of each other so you can cleave them and your teammate can cleave them. Because both Frost DK has the highest cleave, disruption, and damage in the game. So you want them to be stacked. So all you're trying to do is set up situations where they are together and you are stunning them and killing them. And these are the best ways to do that. And that's the best way to set up your burst damage during that time. And that's Frost DK offensive play. For peeling and defensives, you have one additional tool that the basic DK set doesn't have. And of course, that's Blinding Sleet. But Blinding Sleet is so impactful, and I've already talked about one way it could be used, that this is probably going to be a lot of information as well. Because like I said, you can grip blind to set up a stun because it gives you one setup global for you and your partner to get ready before he uses Leg Sweep or Chaos Nova, whatever you're pairing with, or Spear, right? It gives you time to make sure that you land it. But with proper execution, like grip and then immediate absolute zero, or grip and then immediate sweep, there's no reason for blind at all. The stun overwrites the blind and the blind breaks. The blind was just a guarantee for that setup. The blind was a tool that made sure, hey, if they're on a global or this is a very mobile class, I want them to be blinded so we can drop the spear on top of them and we can make sure that all three of them are in it before that blind even breaks. You're effectively giving yourself the time to guarantee a go. But if you don't need to do that, if you're quick, if you're fast, if it's just this comp is doing so much damage, you need to not pair blind with that go. Instead, just do a grip sweep or a grip stun or maybe a really quick grip spear. Then blind is now a defensive tool. And grip blind does not become a setup anymore. And what it should be done is communicated to your teammates. I'm going to blind them. Next go, I'm going to blind them. On their next cooldowns, I'm going to blind them. Next, Storm, Earth, and Fire from the Windwalker, I'm going to blind it. Next, Avatar, I'm blinding it. The reason why you have to do that is because you and your melee friend need to whoop, dip away, don't auto-attack, don't cleave it, don't Templar's Verdict, don't Fists of Fury, because you're going to break the blind and then they're just going to keep cranking you because you broke the CC effect on them. Instead, you're going to grip, let's say, a Windwalker over to a DK, so if that's what you're playing against, and you're going to blind them both, and you're going to dip out, and you're going to let them sit this 5 seconds of CC on their cooldown. So when all of his pets are blind, all of his pillar is blinded, he loses a ton of damage. Not only does it allow your team to recover, so your team is getting healed up while they can't do any damage to you, the damage that they were going to do from those cooldowns is now way reduced. So your healer will not have as hard to heal through it because they lost 5 seconds to 6 seconds of that window, right? So even if you get some distance, remember, blind applies a 50% slow now. You can grip Windwalker to DK, Warrior to DK, DH to Warrior, Ret to Warrior, right? Lock to Warrior, Lock to Rogue, Rogue to Mage, right? It doesn't just always have to be melee. You're making one come to the other. They don't have to be pre-stacked. Here's a Mage. There's a Rogue. Gripping the Mage to the Rogue, blinding them both, dipping away a little bit and stopping all of their cooldowns. Make sure you're communicating with your partners. Make sure you know what you're doing it on. If you just need to press it because you're at 10% health, just try and call out as soon as possible. I blinded, don't break, don't break. But if you can, and you know Vendetta from your Omnibar is coming up, other video, another shout out to that, is coming up in 10 seconds. Say, I will blind this, do not break. Right when you see him press it, grip, blind, stop their offensive cooldowns, and you've synergized with your teammate. That's a little bit of a lesson on how to use blind defensively, but also how to talk to your players to get the most information out as quick as possible. I will blind next, don't break. Great call out, right? Great call out. So that's blind in a nutshell, and that is the only CC related tool that Frost has outside of Dead of Winter, which we talked about ad nauseum. You're using it as a burst button. You'll probably pretty much use it every pillar, and it will disrupt them while you're doing your go, but it's not really a defensive because it takes 4 or 5 seconds to ramp up. So you're kind of using it as an offensive that also stops their pressure. But yeah, blind, very good tool for that. The other ones are shared by both Frost and Unholy. And that's That's Frost. That's Frost's toolkit. That's how you can use it. There's a lot of things you can think about. There are other cooldowns in the game too. Bestial Wrath. Try and grip the hunter over to the feral and blind the hunter, the feral, and all the hunter pets. There you go. You stopped a lot right there. The final thing that I wanted to talk about in these specific videos is who to target. Who to target. Because that's something that's difficult. Which of these players is the squishiest against Frost? What do I want to hit? And that's a hard question generally. That takes a lot of games too. But there are some things you can look for to make that question a little bit more answerable each time. One thing, is it ranged melee? If yes, go ranged. Because if the melee is on you, and this is the lock and you're on the lock, that is how you land to cleave. Because against melee cleaves, you'll be cleaving the whole game. But against ranged melee, you need to bring their melee over to the caster to make sure you cleave. So let's say lock warrior, go lock. That was easy. Boomy warrior, go boomy. That was easy. Shadow priest warrior, shadow priest rogue, go shadow priest. That was easy. Right? You're just going to the caster, you're pulling the healer in, the warrior has to come to you to peel for the shadow priest, and now you've got your triple. Pull healer to shadow priest, warrior comes to you to peel, and you've got a triple go. So against any ranged melee, you tend to go ranged in every circumstance. And your best way to win the game is to have the melee coming to peel you, you're cleaving him the entire game, and then whenever you need triples, you just pull the healer in, and now you've got your triple. Double melee, generally you go the highest priority target, the person who takes the most damage and does the most damage, because glass cannon, melee are sort of a thing. Ret Pally, arms warrior now that the distance nerf came in. Those are really good targets. So in Turbo, go arms warrior. In TSG, go arms warrior. But in Ret warrior, go Ret. In Ret windwalker, well, geez, you're gonna have a good time killing both of those things. So that's when you prioritize cleaving. But once the bubble is down, you know you kind of want to go Ret because they just have no wall to handle you, which leads into yet another thing to consider, right? And this is why PvP is so hard. It's a rabbit hole of information after information. Not only are you just picking a target at the beginning that you think is going to be the best overall win condition, you also dynamically change your target based on who has cooldowns. Did the monk just use karma? Does he not have fortifying brew? The monk is now a good target. You can communicate that with your teammate, and that's what makes proper dynamic play. I have pillar and remorse in 3 seconds. I don't have a lot of defensives left, so we got to get a kill. Make sure we go Windwalker here. He doesn't have anything, I know that. You grip him in, you get a remorseless stun on both, you chill streak on him, and you go hard on the Windwalker because he doesn't have cooldowns. If the lock blue wall, if the mage has no blocks, if the rogue used cloak evasion, right? You're not just picking a target at the beginning. You're also picking a target dynamically based on what they've used, and that's why cooldown management add-ons like Omnibar are so useful. You can track what they have, when they have it, and how long before they have it again, and just go them when you have an opportunity to do so. So who to target in PvP is not so static, right? It's not so strict. I love going ranged against Lock Warrior, of course. You want to stop him as much as possible and cleave as much as possible, but if the warrior is in battle stance with no die by the sword and is half health, swap to him and finish him off. Great swap there. You probably netted a kill, right? And that's part of target calling in PvP. Sometimes even, you can go healers. Did the healers use their CDs? Or are they an R-Shaman? Because Frost DK literally counters them. If they're an R-Shaman, you might be able to set up a go where you pull the DPS into the Shaman instead of pulling the Shaman into the DPS, and just all in him. Silence his trinket. Go really hard. Are they just simply without a wall? Did the disc use Pain Sup? Does he have no mana? Is he just smiting to heal? You can swap to him, kick a smite. Now he's locked out. He has no mana to cast Shadow Mend. He can't press any buttons, and he dies. Right? The game is so dynamic that anybody is who to target based on what the situation is in the game. So that will further amplify your value of getting add-ons that work for you, that show the information on the screen, so you can then choose an action based on the information that's presented to you. And that's extremely important. But that leads into our final, because it's just kind of like a continuation of that, which is what to do against the most popular comps. Because yeah, okay, that's all well and good, but come on. What do I do against Rogue Mage? Who do you want me to hit against Rogue Mage? I get it. You got some information that'll help me make situational decisions, but Rogue Mage is everywhere. What do I do? And that's a very fair question. And it's a very hard to answer question. Holy Priest is near immortal, and when you have a Limgo that's centered every 2 minutes, that's so front-loaded, you cannot go into Fade or fly up in the air, right? So in RMP, Holy Priest is a weak play. I figured that out the hard way this season. So you're going Mage and swapping to Rogue when he doesn't have defensives. And we talked about that earlier. Guess what? You're pressing on Combust. That button right there. The biggest thing about RMP. Make sure you're using blind to stop a go whenever possible. Don't use it randomly. Use it when your partner gets kidney shotted. I will blind the next kidney shot, you say, to your friend warrior you're playing with. Okay, he says, he gets kidneyed, he calls it, I'm kidneyed, you blind. And you just peel to go, right? If Combust is available, you gotta save Trinket Zone for it because you have to pair those two things together. Trinket and Zone are a must. If, the Rogue has used Cloak and Evasion because you got a huge cleave go starting on the Mage, pulled the healer in, cleaved all three. You got the Rogue in a stun, you had to Trinket and Cloak, and he's freaking out and he's running away. You grind him out the rest of the game, right? You don't wait for your next A-Bomb Limgo because he's going to have those cooldowns back. Instead, you're like, Rogue has nothing, let's go Rogue the rest of the game, and eventually you run them out of healing mana because there's bombing heals as he has no cooldowns to immune your damage. So, these are the types of things you do against Rogue Mage. You blind Rogue and Mage on a kidney. You grip the Mage over. You say, okay, next kidney is mine. You grip the Mage over. You blind it during the kidney. You zone during Combust. And you swap based on Mage and Rogue, whoever has cooldowns. If it's a Disc Priest healing it, you can put pressure on the Disc Priest when you have an A-Bomb Limgo and he's lower mana or he doesn't have an important defensive like barrier to deal with it. But against Holy Priest, it's pretty futile to run at them, and that's Rogue Mage Priest. And we could do this for any comp. It's a lot of the same things. Jungle, go Hunter. Go Hunter to the best of your ability. Stay on him. Do your A-Bomb Limgos, disrupt their opener, play heavily defensive, Death Strike a lot because Jungle has so much sustained damage. And, oh, here's a big thing, right? Make sure that when you're doing these peels, these blinds, these defensive options for you, make sure to get the Hunter pets in it too. Here's the Shaman, there's the Hunter, you grip, or sorry, the Feral. Here's the Hunter, you grip the Hunter to the Feral, and here is all of his pets, and you aim your blind a certain way, and now you've disrupted everything. Instead of just going up to the Hunter and saying, oh, the Hunter, press Bestial Wrath, blinding him, and all the pets are right behind you, and none of them get caught in it, you're still taking full damage from this guy's zoo. You have to make sure you understand positioning. You pull the Hunter over to the Feral, blind him and the pets by arcing your character the right way, and now you've actually prevented their damage. Remember, IBF, we've talked about it, can be used during Rake at the start of a go to prevent a lot of their damage and also to immune that stun so you can do some counter pressure yourself. But these are very important things. Jungle, Hunter is a squishy target. Make sure to get his pets. Rogue Mage, they're all squishy but also immortal depending on how it's played. But if you can get them locked down, they'll take their entire health bar in 2 seconds, right? So, and we talked extensively about melee cleaves. Ret Warrior is a big one. Make sure you've got chains on both of them the entire game. Make sure you're landing remorseless double stuns on them the entire game. Make sure you're swapping to who doesn't have cooldowns. Ret has no bubble, you go him. If he intervenes without parry, swap over to the Warrior. These are the things that you'll learn. And yes, specialty comps, sometimes you just want to know, what do I do precisely against Rogue Mage? Hopefully some of these things help, but again, the thing that will solve every problem you have is taking this baseline information, this torrent of information that you get from these videos, taking them right into PvP and queuing, playing, learning, experimenting, developing muscle memory, habits, and instinctive responsiveness, situational awareness. And that's what's going to save you from dying in 2 seconds and going, gee, what a terrible game. You might be right about that last part, but there's still some things we can do to have fun during this crazy season. And I hope that this helps in some way make those things a reality. So that is the Frost portion. There's also an Unholy portion if you want to check it out for the niche things that Unholy and unique things that Unholy can do. I love you guys, and I hope you guys do everything you want this season. So, peace.